Well, for more on the NRA and gun control in America, I'm joined via Skype by Robert Spitzer. He's a distinguished service professor at the State University of New York's Political Science Department. He's also author of, among others, The Politics of Gun Control. Welcome to the show.
Yes, good to speak with you.
So for our international audience, explain how and why the NRA became so powerful in the U.S.
Well, the NRA took, aside from being a very old organization, as your very good setup pointed out, the NRA was really alone in focusing on the gun issue as a single issue decades ago. It really had the playing field pretty much to itself. There were groups that supported stronger gun laws, but they were small, didn't have the same resources, didn't have the same motivated membership. And in the 1970s, the NRA was captured by a dissident group that wanted the NRA to be more political, more radical, and to focus more of its energies in that direction. It took control of the organization and has been pushing it in that direction now for decades. So it's been the big boy on the block for decades, but we're just now in recent years, aside from the NRA's manifold problems, we're beginning to see a much stronger, revitalized, reinvigorated gun safety movement that's starting to change the balance scales a little bit.
So let's take a look at today then, and your take on the judge's bankruptcy ruling and how it affects the organization's inner workings and potentially its future.
I would have been shocked if the judge had ruled any other way, frankly. The NRA did a lousy job of defending itself to begin with. And when it comes to bankruptcy, I mean, I'm no bankruptcy lawyer, but when it comes to bankruptcy, you have to have a clear financial case to make before a judge before you can be granted bankruptcy. And that was not the case that they had to make. It's clear that the New York Attorney General, who's been spearheading this investigation, demonstrated the unbelievable amount of waste and squandering of NRA resources by the top leadership, and to use the dodge of bankruptcy to try and get out from under the New York State investigation and moving to a state like Texas, which is admittedly more gun-free, was a dodge that the judge would not accept, and it did not pass the smell test, you might say. So it's clear that the NRA is going to be squarely in the sights of the continuing investigation by the New York State Attorney General's office.
And as you mentioned, it did start to play a more political role. In fact, according to the Center for Responsive Politics, the NRA spent about $54.4 million on political advocacy in 2020, but then that number fell to $29.4 million the following year, in 2020. Is this just a trend for the NRA, or are other pro-gun lobbyists reducing their spending?
No, there's plenty of money going around. Between 2016, when the NRA spent, I've heard estimates as high as $70 million, in fact, and 2020, 4 years later, NRA spending dropped by as much as 2/3, and that was symptomatic of the severe money problems that they've had in the last several years. The major scandal that came out really in 2019 had been brewing for several years, and people who watched the organization like me and many others had a sense that they were having increasing financial problems, including declining membership numbers, and 40% of the NRA's annual revenues come from membership dues. So when membership goes down, they're going to be hurting financially. So the fact that they spent far less in the 2020 election cycle compared to 2016 is a clear indication of their severe money problems, and it was predictable.
So then talk about how gun control is now viewed, say, today versus 10 years ago. What is the mood like in America towards this?
Well, there are a couple of things going on. First, the baseline is that most Americans support stronger gun laws, including a clear majority supporting pretty much all of the gun proposal ideas that are being discussed now. Moreover, most gun owners favor stronger gun laws too. Once you get past the scare tactic of gun control and gun banning and things like that, and you ask gun owners how they feel about specific measures like uniform background checks, they support them, and in large numbers. Now, on the other side, you have a very aroused gun rights community that really has been stoked even more, I think, during the Trump years. And we've seen now more armed demonstrations, for example, including many gun rights activist kinds of people. There has been a significant increase in gun sales in the last year. Most of that is guns being bought by people who already own guns and are buying more, but some of them are new gun owners, apparently. So you do have a more emboldened and activated gun rights base, but they represent a minority of the country, even though they have a very loud voice. Their one ace in the hole is that they are very tightly wrapped with the Republican Party. And the party is really to the right wing these days, and the NRA's fate is going to stand or fall to a great degree on what happens with the Republican Party in the next few years.
Well, we should certainly watch and see. Thank you so much. Robert Spitzer there, Distinguished Service Professor in the Political Science Department at SUNY in Cortland.